All right, so we left off at opposites. What is an opposite? Okay, so if integers are all whole numbers and they're opposites, when you think whole numbers, you're probably thinking positive numbers, like +1, +2, and +3. An opposite or opposite numbers are numbers that, when placed on a number line, are the exact same distance away from zero, but on opposite sides. So you're really just changing the sign. If your original number was a positive number, its opposite is negative. If your original number is a negative number, the opposite is a positive number. So in this example, it says 3 and -3 are opposites of each other, since 3 and -3 are both 3 units away from 0 and are on opposite sides of 0. One is on the right, one's on the left. Okay, here's an example of what a number line looks like. You guys should have got pretty familiar with number lines in Miss Sloan's class when you were graphing inequalities. So you should know where the positive and negative numbers are. Okay. The other term that you guys are going to see in your practice is called absolute value. I have a video that I'm going to have you guys watch that tells you what absolute value is and gives you a real world example of absolute value.
Absolute value. The absolute value of a number is its distance from another number on a number line. Distance is a measurement that tells you how far you've gone from one point to another. The notation for absolute value is two straight lines, like this. The absolute value of 4 is 4, because 4 is 4 places from 0 on the number line. -4 is also 4 places from 0 on the number line, so its absolute value is also 4. Absolute value is always a positive number because it's the distance from the other number, in this case 0, no matter the direction. Here's Lucy. She needs to walk to her tuba lesson, 3 blocks from the bus stop. After walking 2 blocks, she realizes she dropped her sheet music. She goes back 1 block, finds it, then continues to her lesson. One way to represent Lucy's journey is like this. By walking 2 blocks forward, 1 block back, and 2 blocks forward, Lucy ends up 3 blocks from the stop, yet she walked more than that. Absolute value shows us how much she actually walked. 2 blocks forward, plus 1 block back, plus 2 blocks forward, for a total of 5 blocks. Phew! Absolute value can help us calculate distance and solve math problems.
All right. There's also a link that you can click on here that will take you to other examples of absolute value. And you can also practice absolute value. So, absolute value is how many steps away from 0 a number is. So, if you're finding the absolute value of +6, you would have to find +6 on the number line and think, how many spaces away from 0 is +6? Well, there are 6 spaces away from 0, so the absolute value of +6 is +6, 6 spaces. If you found the absolute value of -6, -6 is also 6 spaces away from 0, so the absolute value of -6 is also +6. So absolute value is always positive. Okay. If you're finding the opposite, you need to find the opposite sign. Absolute value, always positive. You have to learn how to keep those two separated. Those are two different things. So here's an example of using a number line. If we want to know the absolute value of -7, we have to count how many spaces from 0 we have to go to -7. So you got to find 0, count to -7. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. So the absolute value of -7 is 7 spaces. Okay. Here's another example. The absolute value of -5. 0 is here. -5 is here. -5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. Here's an example of two numbers that have the same absolute value. -5 is 5 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of -5 is 5. +5 is also 5 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of +5 is also 5. It's not negative. Okay. My next video is going to give you some examples of how to work out your practice problems in Google Classroom.